Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. This is Mitch.
And TD.
And I know it's been a while since we posted a video, but we wanted to get something out there for you. We kind of wanted to go over the design build process on how we do things with our residential projects, and just kind of some of the intricacies of where all the different aspects of what we go through with all of our clients here. So we kind of have a talking point list here.
Yeah.
We kind of do things on the fly, as you can see, but it's probably good we have talking points at this time.
Yeah.
Or else we'll run this into an hour. But what do we got first here, TD?
Yeah, so we want to cover the process of design and build, because we're getting a lot of questions about that process and just how it works. It is confusing. So Mitch and I wanted to talk about it and just have an unofficial, but back and forth discussion about how that process works. So to kick off, we should start off with the parameters of what it's different. What makes it different? A normal construction project, you are a person that wants to build a theater, a special operations facility, whatever it is. So you would go out and in a normal process, you would get your design completely finished, A to Z, get everything done, and you would have what is called a bid package. That means all of your details. You're in the kitchen or break room, and you turn around, reach out for a knob, and that design package, the bid package, will be so thorough that you will know exactly what type of knob you're reaching for from that set of drawings. You will know exactly what box that goes to, whether that box has got dovetailed joints, whether it's MDF face, whether it's a furniture grade plywood box, right? Everything.
Right.
So a bidder's package is expensive. When you go out and pay a designer to develop a bid package, you're probably going to pay anywhere from, say, 12% to 20% of the after construction value, simply because of how much work is going to go into that. The designer finishes that work in a standard building, gives the homeowner or client, theater builder, special operations commander, their drawings, and then they go out and solicit for bids. Those bids can be shocking. Some homeowners or some builders will be double their targeted construction cost limit when they're designing. And so there's a lot of issues. When that happens, and we as the builder build a bid build package, right? We are bidding it hard numbers. They know what's on the bid package, we know what's on the bid package, we give them a hard number to complete, and it's just based on the lowest total number. Well, a lot of times that lowest total number is greater than the amount that the homeowner or client had planned on spending. That's because designers don't know anything about price. They just don't. They will over-design, if anything. They will put too much rebar on concrete, they will put too much framing and roof. We've done it before. I mean, in some cases, we've done bid builds where after it's over, we're walking the job with the inspector, and the inspector is just laughing because it's been so over-designed. But and a lot of times DOD, we can't do anything about it. We get the bid package, we build it. In a design and build, there is an opportunity to save a lot of money. And that is because the designer of record is usually an architect, the general contractor, who's usually us, and then the client, whoever has the building that they need built, are all in the room together. So we are designing that building to meet the construction cost limit that the client has in plan.
Yeah, so you avoid that sticker shock bid build.
The whole way, basically, when you're doing a design and build, your goal is to finish at the construction cost limit, and you're designing the whole thing with the client, the end user, preferably in the room, or the person at least that's been designated by the end user, the designer of record and the general contractor. And as you're designing that building, the general contractor is coming in with pricing backups. So let's say the client is saying to the designer of record, hey, can I do 2,000 square foot game room with these parameters in place. I want a bathroom, I want a male and female, I want a locker room, whatever it is. And then the general contractor will go back and look at the pricing and then provide pricing based on any changes. So if the owner is saying, hey, I really would like it if I had a gymnasium with 12 locker rooms in it. Okay. So then we would price that and then give them that pricing. Now it's up to the client as we are designing these to approve or disapprove. So in other words, he's being presented with changes. Okay, when we do the initial pricing review before we accept the contract, we will present pricing to the client. Now, for the most part, we already know we're in the window. Mm-hmm. So the process starts off with that initial pricing review, where the client has said, I really want to spend
just put a number out there,
$600,000, and I really want to build a 2,000 square foot, whatever it is. The price per square foot is just it's a holding point. Now we are going into that initial pricing with all of their must-haves. So they're telling us, hey, I really want a radiant floor. I really want this, I really want that. Like, okay, you have all your must-haves. We have the square footage, we have the location of the build, we have the general scope, okay? So then if it's not doable, we will tell the client, thank you, no thank you. And we've had that happen. You're usually our screening guy.
And a lot of people want to build. I don't blame them. They want their dream home, but they come in with an unrealistic budget based on today's market. And if it's not doable, and we know right off the bat without even putting pen to paper if we're pricing or anything, we do have to turn them away. But we will review that quickly and see if it's kind of within the ballpark where it might be doable, or it is doable based on somebody's budget. So at that point, after a client reaches out, gives us a set of, like you said, must-haves and a construction cost limit or total budget is another word for that. We will, at that point, if the client has drawings already or a conceptual drawing, we will essentially price that out for an initial pricing review. And we will present that pricing based on the drawings they gave us and the list of must-haves, and come up with an entire line-by-line item game plan for how much it would cost in the end. So we do have that for you here today. We'll go over that here in a minute. I think we should probably go through
the process.
Yeah, the process first. So a client reaches out to us. Typically, I'll be the person to respond. If I deem it doable, I might talk to TD a little bit about it. And if he says, yeah, that's within the price range or the price ballpark of what they're looking to build, we'll move further with that. Some clients just have an idea in their head. They don't necessarily have a set of drawings or conceptual drawing or anything along those lines. So we may refer them out to one of our designers that we work with closely to come up with a conceptual drawing so we can price that. And at that point, that kind of puts us at stage one with the initial pricing, the construction cost analysis.
Yeah, and it's really simple. What he's describing is we are trying to talk to the client and figure out what do they want to build and is it buildable, right? Not is it buildable at all, but is it buildable for what we would deem a realistic price. Now, realistic price, we are aggressive because we are trying to build an energy efficient, kick-ass building for the price point that our competition is building, standard framing, and what houses are selling for in the market. Now, our houses are far superior, but we're still competitive. What we can't do is beat a 30-year home price. And we've had people come in and try to do that, where they've said, hey, the price point is acceptable, we understand. Like, here's an example. In this area, we have not been able to build in Seattle, where we're at, for under, and this is in this area where it's an expensive area to build. When you say,
yeah.
But in this area, we have not been able to get a price point on a custom home under $230 a square foot.
Right.
It just so happens that the majority of houses that are sold are more expensive than that. Mm-hmm. So it isn't shocking. However, we will still have people come in and try to build for 200 a square foot and think that they know something we don't know.
Yeah.
We do this for a living.
Yeah.
They may have built one house, but we do it for a living. So we have to say, hey, we don't think that's realistic, and walk away. We can only do 8 of these a year. We do one every 45 years. We can only do 8 private every 45 days. We can only do 8 private builds a year.
Yeah.
So we're limited because of our DoD work. Anyway, so the point is, like Mitch was saying, he is looking at the price point, and then we get him in. Our goal is to decide if we can or can't do it, and then present the client with a line item breakdown, full breakdown, that gives them the price based on their must-haves and their location of what we think we're going to... There will be plug numbers and all that stuff.
Yeah.
From flooring plug numbers to nail plug numbers to drywall plug numbers. We're going to have plug numbers in all that stuff that's been populated from years of us building.
Yeah, and we try to be as accurate as possible with these cost analysis. You know, these presentations are pretty darn accurate.
Yeah.
We exhaust a lot of resources. You know, this is all before a contract is signed.
Well, and there's a lot of things that will change.
Yeah.
The owner, the client, is then to change things. All we're saying is that we've got a placeholder in all of the costs. We're not saying that that's going to be the end cost, because once we sign that contract to start the pre-construction services, the client is in the room. They're looking at all of the sub-costs as we design the building. We are then getting real life, material cost, vendor costs, and then we're removing the plug numbers and we're putting in real numbers.
Right.
So that's the process. The goal is we have a 30%, which is 30% of the design. There's a lot in that 30%. So the 30% milestone, 60% milestone, 90% milestone, and then final. And the goal is, as we're doing those 30, 60, and 90, that we're tightening pricing, we're tightening the contract, we're tightening the unknowns, and we're arriving at the end of that pre-construction services, we get a construction cost limit that the client has approved, right? I mean, now if we can't get there, if he says he wants or she wants gold-plated floors, and we say, okay, that's a $2 million ad change.
Yeah.
And he's like, I would still want the house done for $500,000.
Yeah.
Well, guess what?
And that's why we have the initial email before we put this pricing together would typically include the question of what are your must-haves.
Yeah.
So if you want a standing seam metal roof, you add that on. It does add cost to the project, but we can include that on the estimate. So even if the pricing presentation is above the budget, the client would be able to see exactly how much that would cost, in addition to the standard home.
Yeah.
So
and if you are right, and if you think you know something we don't know, and you're right, then that's going to be borne out, because when the sub costs and the material costs come in, that's the cost.
Yeah.
So as you're going through the pre-construction there shouldn't be really any dispute. Basically, you're just going through and you're agreeing on what you want to build, what your finishes are, what your appliances are, and then you're putting those dollars and cents in there as you real-time quote them. So the end of the contract is you have a construction cost limit, a total dollar amount, and you have a line item, a full populated line item budget. At that point, it is up to the client. The client can say, all right, I'm happy with this, let's build. Or you can say, for whatever reason, I don't want to build it.
Yeah.
Whatever they want to do, they pay us for the work we did. We're just signing pre-construction services. Now, I will tell you, we won't do pre-construction services if you're not going to build, because we don't make money in pre-construction services. This is a big pain in the butt for us. So we look at it as a service that we offer our clients who we are building for. So if you're one of the 8 clients that we build for in the year, then those services will be extended to you. If you decide you don't want to do it, that's fine. Or we have some clients who know that they're going to have a delay. That's fine. There's unknowns that happen on both sides. If you walk away, that's fine. But that's the goal, is to get to where we have a construction cost limit and a fully populated budget, line by line. The client has it, the designer has it, we have it, everybody has it. We all agree this is a true CCL, this is a true line item by line item budget,
Yeah.
then we can sign a contract to build it.
Yeah, so we come up with a bid package together as a team versus somebody performing the pre-construction services separately and then reaching out for a bid, getting the sticker shock, then having to go back to the drawing board. We are within that, we are part of that drawing board during that pre-construction process to make sure that, for one, the architect or designer doesn't go overboard and blow out the budget, and for two, any changes that need to be made don't blow out the budget as well. Or if there are extra funds from one thing, they can be reallocated and used in another portion of the project as well. So, at the end of the day, there are no surprises. That's the kind of the key to this, and that's how our business model works with design build. So for one, it helps us because we don't waste time and we don't have to worry about heavy competition. And at the same time, the client benefits from making sure that what is being designed during that process, the money that they're spending during that process, isn't wasted.
Yeah.
We can kind of keep the designer in check or keep the client in realistic terms, as far as what they're looking for. Like you said, adding gold-plated door handles or something like that to an entire house when you have a $600,000 budget, and we're looking at $600,000 without them added. We can point that out before we get too far into the process.
Yeah, and it's not necessarily that we don't want to compete. The problem that we have is unique in that we already have a backlog.
Yeah.
So we don't go out and competitively pursue any more work because of the DoD work that we already have in backlog. So if we didn't do it this way, we just couldn't do it.
Yeah.
We have the design build process there because we think it's a better way of building. We think that it's a way for the client to see up front the price and design their building to match their price. We like the product, but we just don't have enough people to service DoD and then kick out competitive bids. There's also not a lot of competitive bids in this area that we would go after.
Right.
Because of the way the DoD does stuff in this area, we see a lot of our contracts come out under our MATOC and MAC vehicles. So it's a little bit unique for us. We have a little sliver of time left. We have some very knowledgeable PMs and superintendents, and we see this as an ability to build an additional 8 buildings for the private community and not, overly stress ourselves.
Yeah, exactly. So once that's determined, after the cost analysis, we move into a signed contract for pre-construction services. So that would be step 2, I guess you could say. During that time, we have a designer of record that would handle all of the design, all of the engineering, and then move us into permitting as well. And at that time, once permits are received from the city or the county, we would assign a project or a superintendent to the job. And then once the superintendent's assigned to the job and they are free from whatever work they may be on at that time, they would break ground and they would be leading that project from there on out.
Yeah, there are 2 potential delays in the process. The first would be waiting for the next available 45-day window, which would be 2 out now until one of these other steps up. I think we have 6 in process. Yeah. We have 2 already under contract that are going to be slated first, and then there'd be the third one that would come in from that group of 6 that are waiting. So my point is that there is potentially a delay depending on when you approach the company of starting pre-construction services, and then after pre-construction services are done, there could potentially be a delay waiting for a superintendent to be assigned.
Correct.
So there are 2 potential delay periods. Now, we're not talking necessarily months, but the bottom line is that there's 2 delays that we warn everybody that are really, there's nothing we can do about it. It's just, as soon as the permits are approved and processed by the planning department, whether it's your county or your city, we can't assign a superintendent and have them sitting in the office, because sometimes that can take 3 months.
Yeah.
So in one case we heard today, guys been waiting 2 years.
2 years.
In the city of Kent.
It's Maple Valley.
Maple Valley.
So
we can't have a superintendent sitting around. If there's issues with design, it's going to go back and forth, and these planning departments are not fast.
Right.
you're not talking about, Usain Bolt.
Yeah.
They're not fast, right?
Yeah.
Now, I'm not saying they're intentionally slow. I don't think that's the case at all, but
They have a lot of workload, especially in this area
Yeah.
with how much construction is being
there's a
done.
lot.
And-
Yeah, there's a lot of houses being built. So there are delays that you have to expect. When we get somebody who calls and says, "Hey, I don't have land, I don't have a design. Could I be building in 2 months?" No way. There's no way. So there are some delays that you have to plan for. Outside of that, it should be fairly straightforward. But we do tell everybody that you should plan for some delays. Some gotchas that you and I mentioned before, I think we already mentioned price point being realistic.
Yeah.
We also talked about, we also frame. So we frame and we do a number of different walls. We also do split space CMU, we do steel stud. We do a number of different types of exterior walls. We like ICF because it's cheaper.
Yeah.
And here's the bottom line. More money is going in the pocket of the owner, which we built this, it's ours, MacNac owns this, so all the buildings we built, more money is going in the pocket of the owner. And here's the difference. When you have us build a standard frame home, we'll do that with an experienced layout man and a 3-man team. So you're talking to two helpers and an experienced layout man, more likely 3. So your cut crew, right? You're talking about 4 guys doing 200 feet of linear wall a day, and it's organic material.
Yeah.
It's wood. The price of wood in this area has gone up 180% in the
Yeah.
last 2 or 3 years.
Actually, yeah, we had that client reach out. I think it was yesterday, and he had his pre-construction services done by somebody else with stick frame in mind, and his permits have been, like I said, with Maple Valley for almost 2 years now, and he's watched lumber prices triple within that 2 years within this area.
Yeah.
So that's what prompted him to actually reach out to us, because he knows if he's going to be spending money, he could have his money go into the product of the building, a better building at the end of the day. So, that's realistic. That's what we're seeing right now.
It is. So, there's been a 180% increase in lumber, and in this area, framers are getting $60 an hour. At least if you're prevailing, you're a good framer and you're working, on a good building, good crew. So framing is expensive. Now, I'm not talking a residential framer that does that after he gets done, with the backhoe.
Right.
That's not the framer I'm talking about. I'm talking about a professional framer who does it every day and is fast, right? 200 feet of linear a day is not something your backhoe operator is going to go out and bang out.
Yeah.
So, and we've tried. But the bottom line is that wood is an organic material. It breaks down. It's got a 27-year lifespan for a reason. Now, you're going to see houses that have been up for longer than 27 years, but wood is organic. It's exposed to the elements. Even if it's inside of a wall, if it's humid, if it's cold, if it's hot, it's getting exposed to the elements. It's 27-year-old dead wood. Not a big deal. We build out of wood as well, but it can't compete with ICF.
Right.
And the price point is roughly the same.
As of right now.
So so the other thing that we were talking about before is we already covered unreal price point expectations. But one thing that we will do, and this goes to people that if wherever you're building at, if you're working with us on pre-construction services, we're going to look in your area and we're going to look for subcontractor trades from your area because it's going to be cheaper than if we tried to plug in numbers from our area. So don't think that because we're a Seattle contractor that we can't price things. We've worked Hawaii to New York, and not everywhere in between, but a lot of places in between. So when we look in an area, we are going to look in that area at the pricing to build that building in that location.
Yeah.
So you're not going to get pricing from Seattle that we're applying to.
Right, that would be an unrealistic plug number and almost 100% of the time be over budget unless it's a project in the Seattle area. We exhaust resources all over. We reach out to local subs as much as we can, and local concrete, suppliers down in those areas or wherever it might be to try to get the estimate to be as accurate as possible. Plug numbers do come into play for some of our buildings. You know, a lot of those numbers are minute as far as differences, so we'll plug some of the numbers for a light switch or something like that. But yeah, when it comes to trades and subcontractors, we definitely try to get it as accurate as possible within that area that you're building.
Yeah. What are some other stuff you wanted to cover?
Well, let's look at our list because we're already 26 minutes into this.
Are we really?
Yeah.
Oh no. Well, maybe we should just cover then the basics of ICF and make sure everybody kind of understands the process. Is there anything in here that we need?
Well, let me just recap what we talked about as far as the design build. So, you know, step one, the client reaches out to us. We make sure that just right off the bat, their budget versus what they're looking to build is within a ballpark that we can actually spend some time and put a pricing estimate together. If we're at that point, we will, you know, agree, like you said, if we think it may be doable, we will put together a pricing presentation before any contracts are signed, present it to the client to make sure that they have an understanding of, on a line item basis, what each division or what each cost might be at the end. So if what they're looking to build is over budget, you can come down in square footage to meet within that budget. That's part of, you know, keeping it under the CCL. After that's deemed, you know, acceptable by the client, by the contractor and the designer, then we will go into contract for the pre-construction services. Like you said, we'll have a 30-day or 30% review milestone, 60%, 90%, and a final. At that point, everything would be, you know, submitted to the county or the city. Permits would come back, and then depending on time frame, we can start breaking ground. And then we will have a design build amendment signed at that point.
Yeah.
Based on the end result of the pre-construction services.
Yeah, and that is basically moving to actually construct.
Right.
You know, and again, if you decide not to, that's fine. Anyone can say, hey, this isn't doable. Or if you can't get to something you like, you know, I mean, that hasn't happened. If people are realistic and they walk into the process with a realistic expectation, then everything's fine. It's when people are trying to build, you know, a 3,000 square foot house and a detached 2,000 square foot garage, you know, for a half of what we can actually build it for, that it's just like, okay, if I could do that, wouldn't you see, I would do it and sell it.
Yeah.
What, you know what I mean? Like, if I could build a house for 400 grand that I could sell for 650, why would I?
There's a misconception that you can build your own house, a custom home, for less than what a used house would cost, especially in this market.
Yeah.
And it's a misconception because there are ways you could potentially do that if you self-perform majority of the work. We're not in that business, you know, for other people. But
even then, I think about MEP is 33%.
Yeah, it becomes unrealistic at a certain point. And, you know, having somebody else like a GC like us with a design build contract perform everything, it really is just not, it's not a realistic expectation to be able to build that cheap, especially with cost of lumber.
Well, and really, the question really, I mean, it begs to be, if you're a person that could build, let's say a $700,000 house, $200,000 under market value, get in the business. I mean,
you have
there's a shortage of houses.
Yeah, you have connections and resources that apparently everybody does. So, yeah, you know, and when we put these pricing analysis or these construction cost limit analysis presentations together, we try to hit the number.
Yeah,
we're not out to screw anybody. So,
no, and if you're right, it'll be borne out in the CCL. I mean, look, if you're right, when we're going through, we're helping the owner to tighten price, and we're looking in the area where the owner wants to build, and we're getting the best subcontractors that we can find for the best price. So how somebody who doesn't do this for a living would come in and beat that is shocking to me. But again, I always say to people, like, if that's true, it'll be borne out in the process. Because the process is to tighten and find the cheapest prices.
Yeah.
You know, and everyone's in the room. There's no questions asked. If there's a decision to take one sub over another sub because people are worried. That's something that's discussed.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. So nothing hidden at that point.
No, there's nothing hidden. The entire process. That's what's beautiful about it. Is it's out there for everybody. So the owner, the client, the GC, everybody's in the room working together.
Right.
You know, it's very simple. I like it because it's collaborative.
It's collaborative. It's transparent. You know, discussion's open throughout the entire process.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there are no gotchas at that point.
And everyone's got the same goal.
Yeah, you know, we want to build what the client wants to build within their budget.
Yeah, I mean, look,
that's where we're at.
And this is really when I think this is on a tangent, but I think realtors should look at it the same way too. That look, if you get a client who comes in and says, "I want to buy the best possible home for X," great. Realtors are working on a percentage. General contractors are working on a percentage. I don't care.
Yeah.
Nobody cares how much. Why does it improve my position to upsell? If that's how much you want to spend, it is on my best interest to find the best possible way for you to spend that money. Yeah. I'm going to get the same amount.
Yeah.
The realtor's going to get the same amount. So again, I always say, why upsell?
Yeah.
If they have X to spend, great. Find them the best possible they can buy for X, and they're going to tell all their friends.
Yeah. Yeah. It's, you know, people have a budget.
Yeah.
And
Which is why we have a waiting list.
Can't upsell somebody on a budget, you know. Well, I guess you could, you know, but yeah, no, we're here to be helpful, not be greedy.
Yeah.
Okay, so T, let's cut the video here. We're over half an hour into this.
Okay.
This will be part 1 of our design build overview because we do have that initial construction cost analysis as part of our design build process. So we'll make that a second video and then we'll go over that as well. So thank you guys for watching. Hopefully you watch the next video, which should be posted shortly after this. We appreciate it once again. I'm Mitch.
TD.
We're with Mackinac Construction. We're here to help you. Please reach out with any questions that you might have. Have a good day.